Welcome, everybody, to the Moses Lake City Council meeting Tuesday, November 14th, 2023. It is now 6:30 and we'll begin the meeting. Citizens who've requested to address the council will be called on at the appropriate time to make your comments. If there are any students in the audience, we'll take a break at 9 o'clock if we're not done by then, so that we can sign your forms and you can go home. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you, Mayor Myers. Councilmember Fancher,
Present.
Councilmember Swartz,
Present.
Councilmember Madewell,
Present.
Councilmember Eck, Councilmember Skog,
Present.
Deputy Mayor Martinez,
Present.
and Mayor Myers.
Present. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Does any council member wish to move a consent agenda item to a business item for individual discussion and vote, or make other modification for tonight's agenda? Councilmember Madewell.
I would like number I pulled. To discuss, I'm sorry.
We'll move that to new business, item I. Any other modifications? Need a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Citizens communications. Council invites citizens' comments to hear from the public on matters before the council or relevant to the council's business. Council values free expression of all points of view as an important democratic value in this community. Each speaker will be allowed a maximum of 5 minutes. Council may request staff research comments received for potential future action. Make sure your cell phones are turned to silent. Take private conversations outside. And when you're called on to speak, please begin with stating your name and city of residence for the record. We'll start with Mr. Andrew Copen.
My name is Andrew Copen. I'm from Moses Lake, Pelican Point.
Is their mic turned on?
Test, test, test. Test. Test, test.
There we go.
My name is Andrew Copen. I live in Moses Lake, Pelican Point. I do have a PowerPoint if I can get it up and running. There we go. I hope this evening finds you all well. Today I want to address the matter that touches the essence of our community's image and responsibilities we bear as stewards of Moses Lake. In a previous meeting, Mr. Skog rightfully expressed his desire to address the issue of vacant lots being misused as dumping grounds. The suggestion was made that the city should allocate resources to clean up such sites, underlining the importance of maintaining the dignity of our vacant lots. I stand in agreement with the sentiment that our city should not tolerate the misuse of these places. Yet, as we contemplate the cleanliness of our vacant lots, the recent election cycle introduced a new challenge. Many vacant lots and city right-of-ways were repurposed as spaces for campaign signs. While some signs may have been placed with property's owner's permission, there is a legitimate concern that many were not. This election season has been playfully dubbed the vacant lot elections, highlighting the extent of this issue. It is crucial to recognize that there are established regulations governing the placement of signs within our city. And definitely zip tying signs to traffic lights is a clear violation. And with the exception of 5 approved sites on Moses Lake's public property, placing signs of right-of-way is strictly prohibited. I am confident that every member of this council is well acquainted with these regulations. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that these regulations are enforced and that illegal signs are promptly removed. I urge the city to take decisive actions against those who intentionally disregard these regulations, especially when it involves people who should know better. Preserving the cleanliness and visual appeal of our city is a shared goal. Upholding sign regulations is a crucial aspect of achieving this goal. As we gather here today, let us reaffirm our commitment to the well-being of our community and act swiftly to address this concern. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate your dedication to the betterment of Moses Lake. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jason Burnham.
Jason Burnham, Moses Lake. I'm here to talk about the prevalence of drugs in our city. Seems to me that the leadership has taken the position of being enablers to rampant drug abuse across our town. And in the last 3 years, it's had a very detrimental effect. I had a meth addict patient not too long ago who was in for an OD. Talking to him, I asked where he was from, and he said Portland. I asked why he was here. He said, Moses Lake has the best meth in the Pacific Northwest. In the last year, I've been working at our hospital. I've seen meth addicts from as far away as Idaho, all the way down into Oregon, from Republic, Seattle, Spokane. If you want the best meth, Moses Lake is where it's at. So what comes with this permissive, accommodating attitude towards rampant drug abuse? More thefts, higher crime, increasing number of homeless drug addict vagrants arriving to beg and harass the citizens of this town on every street corner. Then we have the shootings. June 13th, a drive-by. August 13th, 1 person killed, 2 shot. August 20th, at the Arco Circle K, a 90-year-old was shot multiple times. Last week, Highway 17, 2 people shot, 1 killed. And then there is this Sunday. There were 2 shootings that day. The first happened early Sunday morning. By the afternoon, there was another on Linden Avenue. They were just blasting away each other. 1 person was killed and 2 more were transported to our hospital. The most critical was my patient. I'm the one who helped put in the breathing tube in, the one who put him on the ventilator, and I'm the one who stood there for hours, suctioning copious amount of blood, trying to keep this guy alive. This was at the cost of my other patients, our friends, family, colleagues, people I was responsible to take care of, but I was too wrapped up taking care of this guy who got caught up in a drive-by. And tonight, you guys want to talk about raising property taxes to 3% and building a drug rehab facility instead of taking on the task of talking about why Moses Lake is known as having the best meth in the Pacific Northwest. 10 years ago, the biggest crime was Mrs. Johnson's garage being graffitied. Today, we have weekly raging gun battles on our streets. Your enabling attitude is draining city and hospital resources. You are making the people of this town second-rate citizens and victims. You are putting all of us at risk. I want you to know that the last few months, I've been trying to get a billboard near Stratford and Broadway. When I get it, I'm putting up a big old mugshot of a toothless meth addict up there with the words saying, "Welcome to Moses Lake, best meth in the Pacific Northwest. Thank your city council and Grant County Sheriff's Department today." When it happens, you won't have to wonder who did it. It was me. This is our town. My family lives here, and I'm just one of many who have been impacted by this city council's lack of resolve. We don't have to tolerate this. We can put an end to it. You just have to be willing to do so. You seem to have this drive to turn Moses Lake into the scummiest portion of Seattle. In the last 3 years, the city council has done piss poor job running our town. Sick of the running gun battles and the freely distributed meth and Mexi-glues. I'm sick of the dealers feeling they can just distribute without consequence and a city council that lacks the spine to tackle them on. I'm not going away. I'm coming to the next meeting and the next one after that until this is cleared up. I'm done.
Questions or comments from the council? I know I'm fully in agreement with you. We're doing everything we can to put this to rest. I'm tired of hearing of the drive-by shootings and all the gang activity. And I know our police department is doing everything they can to stop that with the handcuffs that have been placed on by the state. We're active in police reform at the state level, so we're doing everything we can to get that issue resolved. Councilmember Scogden.
In response to doing nothing, I would like to give an attaboy to the cameras that have been put up in Moses Lake, and that within a matter of minutes of that shooting, the car was identified and located and pulled over. And that would not have happened without cameras. So when we want to talk about doing stuff, and we're going to have to deal with what's freedom, what isn't, where are we going to put that balance? But we have to do something. We are doing things, and we can do more. I know I can appreciate the comments of being in Moses Lake. I grew up here. Yeah, right. The worst thing was worrying about Mrs. Jones's getting gumped with eggs. But I mean, that's what we called it then. Anyway, this is not acceptable, and we will do stuff about it. And I think if you put up a billboard, I think that would be kind of cool, to tell you the truth. Anyway, the cameras work. Thank you, Police Department.
Deputy Mayor Martinez.
I just want to say thank you for the work that you do. You must work in the ER at the hospital. I understand the struggle when you're having to take care of those types of patients. I have to do that as well in my work. And it's devastating. It's devastating for the families. It's devastating for the people that have to take care of these people and try and get them to survive for the next day, if they get one. So I appreciate your work. I do want to reiterate somewhat what Mayor Myers and Councilmember Skog have said, that we are not sitting here on our hands. We would do more if the state allowed us to do more. And so my recommendation would be that you also contact the legislators, and not just our legislators here in the 13th district. They're on our side. They want to be able to do more, but they can't. So you need to reach across. I suggest that you reach across to the other side, the majority, and start hammering them with what you have to say, and start telling them about those patients that you see in the ER, and what also happens to the patients that were waiting for other things like a cardiac arrest or pneumonia, et cetera. That would be my suggestion to you, sir. Thank you.
Rod Richardson.
Rod Richardson. I live here in Moses Lake. The previous gentleman said it from a city point of view. I live on Beaumont Drive. I got a call from my wife saying there's a dead guy in front of our house. Sunday afternoon, shots were fired. She walked out, saw lights and sirens to see a dead body laying in the street, and a car shot all to heck. This, by our count, is the 5th person in 5 years that's been shot on Beaumont Drive or Boardwalk, which is the road down below the train tracks. Okay. The Montlake Park is a fantastic park for the summer, but all it does is there's prostitution, there's drug use, there's just general mayhem down there all winter long. I don't know anything about this. I was at work this weekend. She calls in tears because there's a dead body half a block from our house. My wife moved us here 14 years ago for her job. She works at Community Health as a dentist. She serves the underserved people of this community with the dental care that they all need. I used to be a nurse and worked at Lake Ridge and worked with dementia patients. Oral care wasn't done. We set up a bunch of stuff to try and get more care for them. Last night, she's flipping through the computer, trying to find somewhere else to live because she can't stand it anymore. The only problem is I want to go one direction, she wants to go the other, but we've got to do something. And I don't know about the other shootings in this town. I hear about them occasionally. Her assistants grandson was shot and killed 2 years ago, I believe, down on Marina, I believe. We've got to do something. I know you say call all the legislators. There's got to be some more that we can do without moving them. And if we have to take that on ourselves, is there not something we can do to make our city safer? This is crazy that in a 1 block area, we've had 5 people either take their life with a firearm or get shot. Several were homeless that nobody knew. I don't know anything more about what happened on Sunday, but in one little area, this has happened now once a year for 5 years. And it's when we're a upper middle class neighborhood over there. I know crime hits everywhere, and I try and tell her that random violence is random violence, but there's something about that area that needs to be policed better. And I don't know what it is. Every spring we spend 100 man hours cleaning up the area because of the illicit activities that are going on down on Boardwalk. A few people have started to build down there, but it's been empty lots for the whole time that we've lived there. And something needs to be done. I know we can't close the street off, but I would really like to see Montlake Park closed in the wintertime. When boating season is over, let's put a gate across there. There's no reason to be down there. I know Chief Fuhrer City Manager Fuhrer here's the guys burning out at all hours of the day down there. It's just when boating season is not going on, it is just a mess down there. People come down Linden 70+ miles an hour. We've had people almost hit on that road. It would be nice to see something. I don't have any other solutions other than to say I'd like to see that park closed when it's not boating season, because it really isn't that great of a park outside of the summer months. But just to say, from a citizen's perspective here, we've had way more than our share of homicide and suicide in Montlake Park and in that 1 block radius there for Moses Lake.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments or questions from the council? Moving on to Greg Hutchison, I think is your last name. Okay. Thank you. Moving on to the mayor's reports. We have a couple proclamations to make tonight. I passed a couple off to our deputy mayor to help me with these, so I'll turn it over to her to read ones that she has.
This is a proclamation concerning Veterans Day. Regarding Veterans Day. Whereas the contributions and sacrifices of the men and women who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining our freedoms and way of life. And whereas tens of millions of Americans have served in the armed forces of the United States during the past century. And whereas hundreds of thousands of Americans have given their lives while serving in the armed forces during the past century. And whereas Washington State is home to more than 525,000 veterans, 63,000 active duty military, 17,000 National Guard and Reserves and their families. And whereas our veterans are brave and selfless individuals who, when duty called, willingly put themselves in harm's way to defend the lives and liberty of others. And whereas their abiding patriotism and enduring devotion to the ideals on which the United States is founded can never fail to inspire us. And whereas our veterans understand the important task before the American servicemen and women now keeping watch. And whereas all residents of Moses Lake must strive to ensure that ours remains a land worthy of the great love our veterans have shown for it. Now, therefore, I, Deanna Martinez, Deputy Mayor of the City of Moses Lake, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2023 as Veterans Day in Moses Lake, Washington. And I encourage all people in our city to acknowledge and honor the contributions of our veterans to the principles of democracy, individual freedom, and human rights.
If you're a veteran, please stand that we may recognize you. All veterans, please stand. We thank you for your service.
Information regarding Geographical Information System Technology Day. Whereas the city of Moses Lake recognizes that an understanding, use, and application of geospatial technology is crucial to operating our infrastructure, sustaining our natural resources, and stimulating economic growth, thus benefiting the welfare of the general public throughout Grant County. And whereas Geographical Information Systems, GIS technology, allows us to see and model complex relationships and patterns and strengthens decision-making for governments, communities, and businesses all over the world. And whereas there is a need to promote GIS awareness, education, and technical training to use this rapidly developing technology to its full potential. And whereas the city of Moses Lake acknowledges those that have chosen GIS as their profession as part of their discipline to improve the lives of our citizens. And whereas to recognize and support the efforts of nonprofits who work on activities to improve conservation, human services, and various humanitarian efforts to better our world. And whereas having a day of GIS activities open to students, citizens, and government leaders will help promote STEM education and inspire others to a higher calling to use technology for good. And whereas City of Moses Lake is committed to utilizing GIS to inform decision-making and better serve its residents and make useful geographic information open and easily available to the public as a platform for innovation. Now, therefore, I, Deanna Martinez, Deputy Mayor of the City of Moses Lake, will celebrate GIS Day on November 15th, 2023. I encourage everyone to acknowledge and honor the contributions of our GIS staff in the Technology Services Department.
One more proclamation. This is for Small Business Saturday. Whereas the government of Moses Lake, Washington celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. And whereas according to the U.S. Small Business Administration, there are 33.2 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 62.7% of net new jobs created since 1995. And small businesses employ 46.4% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. And whereas 68 cents of every dollar spent at a small business in the United States stays in the local community, and every dollar spent at small businesses create an additional 48 cents in local business activity as a result of employees and local businesses purchasing local goods and services. And whereas 72% of consumers reported that Small Business Saturday 2022 made them want to shop and dine at small, independently owned retailers and restaurants all year long. And whereas Moses Lake, Washington supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore, I, Don Myers, Mayor of the City of Moses Lake, do hereby proclaim November 25th, 2023 as Small Business Saturday in Moses Lake, Washington, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and to shop small throughout the year. Thank you. Now I get the great privilege of swearing in our new city manager to the oath of office. Please raise your right hand, repeat after me. I, Kevin Pure, have been duly appointed to the office of city manager.
Appointed to the office of city manager.
Do solemnly swear or affirm
Swear or affirm
that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of my office
discharge the duties of my office
as prescribed by law and
as prescribed by law
to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability.
I will support and maintain
I will support and maintain
all valid ordinances of the city of Moses Lake,
all valid ordinances of the city of Moses Lake,
as well as the laws and constitution of the state of Washington
as well as the laws and constitution of the state of Washington
and of the United States of America.
and the United States of America.
Thank you and welcome. You can't back out now. Does council wish to have any business brought to a future meeting? Councilmember Fancher.
I think in light of a lot of the comments today, I've been thinking about this a lot myself and the safety of our community, and it's been high on my list all the way through back, if you recall, even with the when we talked about the RVs and what could we do to eliminate the danger. I would like to maybe get a better handle on how we may be able to protect our community better. And I know the standard answer is it's more money, well, because more officers or whatever, but maybe we could have some sort of study session to just talk about where we're at.
So I want to throw this out there. So a couple of weeks ago, we saw the encampment behind Basin Propane kind of getting out of hand. I sent 3 departments over there to get them moved. The police department, code enforcement, and then I sent actually 4 departments, street and parks went over there too. We removed the folks from the property. When we removed them, realized that the area there is, I mean, the camp was spread out along the whole property. I mean, it would have taken city crew weeks to clean it up. We actually had dump trucks and front end loaders there. Spent a few hours, didn't even make a dent. And so I told everybody to leave. We are working with the property owner. We've got a permit, or we're waiting for a permit right now to burn that whole area and try to burn as much of it as we can out of there. The issue that comes up is you saw the post yesterday from the library. When we displace them from private property, it becomes more visible. And I'm just throwing that out there, that it becomes more visible. And so when we displace them from there, they go somewhere else, and it's either another piece of private property or they find some other place to land. And so a lot of these folks won't use the sleep center. And so they're just out there either floating from private property to private property or some other property. And other than moving them out of the parks at night, because we have an ordinance that prohibits them from being in the parks at night, once we kick them out of the parks, they're on the streets. So,
Well,
I mean, we can discuss this.
and I think it's more than that. I mean, I think I think we need to have a clear understanding so that we're conveying everything properly, what we can do, what the state is requiring of us, the legislative concerns. I think we all have a pretty good handle on it, but a refresher, because certain things have changed. And then are there things that we can do to make sure that we can do a better job of keeping our citizens safe? And I just think the law enforcement has done a great job as far as I'm concerned, but it is seem like, and I've said this goes back 25 years. With growth comes pain, and we're seeing that.
Yeah.
But we got to figure out how to keep up. I mean, I would say we talk about fire. I mean, they're all interrelated. I mean, if there's more crime, there's more need for fire and that kind of public safety. So I think just having some education, I think would help immensely, including me.
And I would also add this to the gentleman that was talking about the drug issue. Obviously, I'm assuming the council knows this, but the drug laws changed a couple years ago. It's no longer a felony to use any drug, period. It's misdemeanor charges, and so it's writing them a ticket is what it is. And in Grant County, unless it's a Class A or Class B felony, you don't go to jail, and haven't for probably 4 years now. And so we write the ticket, they end up with the misdemeanor warrant that does nothing. So there are obviously some challenges for law enforcement right now.
One thing I'd like to add to that, at a couple of our very prominent intersections, we have placed signs that say, contribute to the solution. So instead of giving them money, when you see them on the side, donate to charities that will be able to help serve them more completely instead of just free reign to buy drugs or alcohol. So donate to the charities that are doing something for them versus just giving them the money. Thank you. Councilmember Schwartz.
Yes, as long as we're on the topic, I'll just make sure we're clear that I believe what was identified, Mr. Richardson, is that correct? There's a violence, increase in violent activity and gun violence especially. So I would like to know if there's, what's being done. I know there are, gang task forces and at work in Grant County, but have some of these cases or these being solved, or is?
So I will tell you this, and I'm going to speak on behalf, but then I'll turn it over to you. All the ones with the prior chief were solved.
Prior chief is the reason we're in.
Dave, you want to speak?
So we have solved them. And as to the gun law, I mean, certainly our ability to be as proactive as we once were is greatly inhibited. And quite frankly, we're seeing violent crime across the nation. So it's not new to us. And certainly in Washington State with the reform, I'm not smart enough to draw the direct correlation. So I'm not trying to, but I think we'd be foolish not to believe that doesn't contribute in some way. So we're also seeing a rise in juvenile crime. If you look at our last few homicides, they've greatly involved juveniles. They've been the shooters. They've been drivers. They've been all. We can't even talk to them. So even when we catch them, you can't talk to them. So there was a law that was put forth last year, and I believe it's going to be revived again this year, that to move the age of culpability, which is currently 8 to 12, they're presumed not to be able to commit crime. It'll be 14 if that law passes, except for homicide. So apparently people know that homicide is bad, but robbery and some of the other crimes, juveniles couldn't be prosecuted for. So these are the things that we're up against, I guess, as we try to find pathways through it. And certainly we're finding pathways through it. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the men and women that showed up here today. They do a fantastic job. But we have rules that we're working in. And I think the biggest thing for me is we're solving them. I came from our tactical team was out on a call out in relation to our most recent homicide. That's where I came from to be here. So we are solving them. Unfortunately, we're in a catch-up game. So as far as gun crimes, our street crimes unit and patrol units have done a fantastic job and are taking guns off the street literally every week. They are doing a significant number of drug cases on top of that. We have partnered with our federal folks at the ATF and the U.S. Marshal's Office to great effect. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're doing what we can, but we're in a different game. So 31 years ago, the gentleman talked about 10 years ago, the biggest crime was a little graffiti on grandma's door. 31 years ago, when I came here, we had 4 drive-bys in a weekend. So Moses Lake has always had a little bit of a problem. Unfortunately, we can't use the same tactics that we used 31 years ago. So certainly, I'm all for sitting down and learning, and I'm not saying that we have all the answers, and I'm certainly not saying I am. I'll bring some folks that can speak to things more intelligently. But just to give you an idea, they're out there working their tails off, and they're doing a good job.
I want to add one thing, and that is not this latest homicide, but the one we had on loop. I believe the shooters were identified within a 24-hour period, maybe 2 days. Because,
Yeah, I think within, certainly within the weekend.
because they were juveniles and we're not allowed to talk to them. We had to wait until we gathered more evidence before we could pick them up, which took, what, 3 weeks or so?
It took a while because we're also up against certain clocks for our speedy trial clocks and declination hearing. So if a juvenile is a certain age and it appears that the prosecutor wants to decline jurisdiction in juvenile and move them to adult court, it's 10 days. So we've got to be ready to present a full case in 10 days from the time we arrest them.
And I've mentioned this in the past. We in Moses Lake PD with the prior chief, we were solving crimes in the 40 to 50% range, which is way above the state average, which I believe is upper 20s, early or low 30s. So we're solving almost 50% of the crime. The unfortunate thing is we're solving it because it's happening, and it's trying to get that. Being proactive to try to get it to stop happening is where the difficulty lies. So the new chief will do a great job.
So were you satisfied? Are we gonna have the study session?
I wrote down that future study session on homelessness. We can also wrap in the violence issue too.
Councilmember Scogden?
Are we, do all state laws or federal laws trump anything we would do to say that it was illegal to use drugs on city property?
You can't make it stricter than what state laws.
Cannot.
Yeah, no, we couldn't make a possession of drugs a felony over what the state already has. So you can't make it stricter.
Okay, moving on to the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I've got a few things. Start with fire has a new employee that they'd like to introduce.
I'd like to have Heather Van Packagum stand up. Heather is filling our vacant fire administrative assistant position. That position's been vacant for about 8 months, and we were lucky enough to steal her away from Ephrata Police, and she's started working. She moved here 12 years ago from Boise, Idaho. Spent her working career in Ephrata, coming to Moses Lake Fire from the Ephrata Police Department. In her free time, she runs her 12-year-old around, volunteers at the Maskers Theater in Soap Lake, and keeps her husband busy with home improvement projects. And she's excited to spend her time here in Moses Lake with the fire department. Heather Van Pack.
Okay, now if I can get interim chief Sands to come up. Now, I asked him if he wanted me to type the bio up or if he wanted to do it. He did it. With a caveat that I gotta do a little modification to it.
It was perfect before.
Come stand over here.
It would have brought tears to many, many eyes.
I'm gonna read it before I call his wife up. So Dave Sands, over 31 years ago, Dave came to the MLPD from the fine and prestigious Washington State University, also known as the Harvard of the West. After his junior year, because he was tired of his parents paying for everything, go Cougs. During his career, he has served as an officer, Safe Streets team officer, corporal, patrol sergeant, detective sergeant, operations captain, and administrative captain. He also left off interim chief back in 2019. As secondary duties, Dave was an original member of the Honor Guard, formed the Columbia Basin Traffic Safety Task Force, and was commander of the Central Basin Investigative Team. Dave is also a graduate of the FBI National Academy. He has been blessed to have an amazing family. His wife, Chris, and his boys, Garrett and Ethan, have been both understanding and supportive as he's missed holidays, birthdays, vacations, and the random middle of the night call outs. While his two boys had no choice, and by the way, they now attend the fine and prestigious Washington State University, Chris could have left him whenever she wanted to. But she is an amazing person and has stuck it out. Police spouses truly are special people. Now, this is the part that I take exception with. Finally, I could go on for hours about what I have learned from Dave and how I have benefited greatly from being associated with him. I also know he really hates being the center of attention, so let's finish this up. So, Dave is an amazing person. He wouldn't be standing before you if I didn't think so. Even though he has learned more from me than I have learned from him, I'm going to tell him to raise his right hand. Yeah, we're doing this, baby. I, Dave Sands, do solemnly swear that I am a citizen of the United States of America
Do solemnly swear that I'm a citizen of the United States of America
and of the state of Washington,
and of the state of Washington,
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
and the laws of the state of Washington
and the laws of the state of Washington,
and the laws and ordinances of the city of Moses Lake,
and the laws and ordinances of the city of Moses Lake,
and will, to the best of my judgment,
to the best of my judgment,
skill, and ability,
skill, and ability,
truly, faithfully, diligently, and impartially,
truly, faithfully, diligently, and impartially,
perform the duties of police chief
perform the duties of police chief
as a member of the Moses Lake Police Department
of the Moses Lake Police Department
in and for the city of Moses Lake,
for the city of Moses Lake,
as such duties are prescribed by law.
as such duties are prescribed
So help me God. Now, I'm not giving him the mic because you see what he writes, so I'm not gonna let him talk. So. Mayor, I have two more things. First, the third thing is in your packet is the 24 legislative agenda. I didn't get any comments from council. I used some of the agenda items that we had from last year that still transfer into this year. And then I also sent you the AWC 24 priority list. If you would like to see modifications or additions to that, please let me know. That is a draft. So if there's something, again, you want added, subtracted, modified, just reach out to me and let me know. So, yes.
Is there a deadline to, for?
No, it's for the legislative session, so sometime in the next month and a half.
Thank you.
And then the last thing I have is, you see the third quarter financial report in your packet. If you have questions, I'm going to defer to Madeline, but, I'm assuming that's self-explanatory. We're sitting in a good shape right now. Any questions? Mayor, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is the 2024 budget ordinance, and we'll start with a presentation from our finance director, Madeline Prentice.
Yes, so in the packet, you have the 2024 final budget packet. There was one slight change to that, and as a final review, when I went back through, I noticed that for Fund 170, I had an incorrect transfer to the streets department. So that is the one change that was made to the budget so that the transfers were accurate. Everything else in your packet was exactly the same as the first public hearing and the second budget workshop that we had. So that was the only change that was made to the budget.
Before we open up council discussion, we need to reopen the public hearing to call for public testimony. So at this time, if you'd like to speak on the matter, step up to the mic, state your name and city of residence. Or if there's anybody online that would like to speak, simply raise your hand. Doesn't look like anybody would like to speak, so we will close the public hearing and open up council discussion or questions. There are none. I would accept a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 2 is the consent agenda. All items listed are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion, excluding item I. Need a motion to approve? Thank you.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We currently have no old business, so we'll move on to new business and we'll start with item number I, the SR 17 and Stratford Road Pedestrian Safety Grant. Judy Madewell, if you'd like to ask your question.
I do. I believe this would be of Richard. Hi, back there. So can you show us what maybe the plan, what the plan is for this construction, please?
So what this is, back in 2017, we worked with the state on doing a what we call the corridor study for Stratford Road. It was basically from Broadway to Highway 17, and identifying various improvements that could be made there. We implemented like the new intersection design and traffic control at Stratford and Valley, which has helped a lot. We added the lane, so on and so forth. Some other things that were identified was there was definitely some pedestrian access needs, particularly across Highway 17 to the neighborhoods north of where Walmart and Winco and all those are. Some of those neighborhoods getting pedestrian access into those areas. And so there was an opportunity, a grant funding opportunity for some design money that we applied for and were awarded. And we've been begging or asking the state for years to do something with their bridge. It's very hard for pedestrians to get across that bridge. Very narrow sidewalks, less than 3 feet, and big high curbs and other things. So they told us they really couldn't do anything. They couldn't budget any money, but maybe if we had a real good plan, that they might be able to then take that plan and run with it and fund some real improvements there. So they encouraged us to apply for this grant. And so this is a design only grant. We'll be going out after we accept the money. This is a there's no match. It's fully reimbursable. We have to do the labor, then we submit the bill to them and they pay us. But then, so we're going to get we're going to go out for some consulting help to try to come up with a plan and design level drawings that we can then give to the state and say, here is a recommended plan for making real pedestrian improvements. And then if we have a plan, they told us then that we could go for more grant money in partnership with the state to try to make the actual construction happen. So this is step one of taking this funding, getting a consulting firm on board to give us construction level drawings and a firm plan to then present to the state for improvements.
Okay, so you've been working on this for a while. So what do you envision this in your thinking? How do you see this taking place? What do you see? So how it's going to look like?
So there's different options that could happen. Like I said, the main thing is Highway 17 creates a barrier to pedestrians to try to get from the neighborhoods to the north safely into the shopping area to the south of Highway 17. Some of the constraints are the bridge construction itself. So one idea is you build a bigger bridge. You put in wider sidewalks. Another idea is you narrow the driving lanes and use the same bridge and widen the sidewalks. That's another idea. Another idea that's been floated out there is maybe some communities have put, like an underpass, a pedestrian underpass under the highway. That's another idea that's been floated out there. There's lots of ideas. And so it's doing a cost benefit study to, you know, which of these crazy ideas is the most cost effective and we think could work. And so that's what this money is funding, is the engineering design and study to come up with what we feel is the best plan, and take it through design and cost estimates to be ready to go to the next level of getting more money to actually build it.
What is your vision? You, Richard, what is your vision for this bridge?
The easiest thing would, to build a new bridge is very expensive. So the most cost-effective thing would be actually to narrow the lanes and build wider sidewalks. Or the other option is you demo one side of the sidewalk and you build one wide sidewalk on one side and use the existing bridge deck. So if we had to do it with the city of Moses Lake's money and be basically the least expensive option, that would probably be the solution, is take out the 2-foot sidewalk over here and make 1 4-foot sidewalk over here and shift everything a little bit. It's still not it would be better to have like a 6 or an 8-foot sidewalk. But again, you have to look at cost. We're gonna have to do some structural analysis to see some communities, what they've done is they've hung a new sidewalk off the edge of the bridge. Can the existing structure support a cantilever structure? There's different things that we have to do to understand what that old bridge can even take. And so there's ideally, if we had all the money in the world, you'd tear it down and build a new bridge. Like I said, we've got, this is helping us do a deep dive study on that corridor to figure out how to eliminate that pedestrian barrier from the north side to the south side.
Do we have any idea what the pedestrian traffic is across that bridge? Do we have any kind of numbers that
How many use it right now?
Yes.
It's not that much, because who would be crazy enough to try to do it? We actually had, there was a lady that lived in the neighborhood to the north. And I haven't seen her in a while, but she was in I don't know what you'd call it, a jazzy scooter. And she would just take the lane. She would just drive in the outside lane to get to the store. And that's how she did it, because she couldn't get on the sidewalk. It wasn't wide enough for her scooter anyways. And so, and I have witnessed a mother with a stroller and a little kid in tow trying to do this on a sidewalk that's only this wide, right next to all of the cars. So, you know, like I said, the traffic, the pedestrian traffic is probably very low, because who would be crazy enough? You'd have to be pretty desperate to feel safe trying to get back and forth across there.
And I understand that. I'm just, because I know I say it over and over, I'm very visual. So when I see these kind of things come up, then I want to know, so that in my head, I understand what you're saying. And I don't want anyone to be unsafe trying to get across the bridge. That's not what my thinking is. So I'm just wondering what you had in mind. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Martinez?
I had one question, Richard. There was some work done on that bridge not too long ago. So what was it? Because I was thinking they were widening the sidewalk, but was not that?
No, that was actually, there is an existing gas utility crossing with the bridge, and they had to make a repair.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Skog.
Is there any plan other than getting over the bridge dealing with the 3 on-off ramps? I mean, is that dodge a bullet there too?
So as part of this, and in talking with the state, part of the pedestrian access is understanding how the traffic interacts with, so the on and off ramps are all, they're all legal questions, and improvements can be part of this plan. And actually, because the state is really focused on multimodal, complete streets, and pedestrian access, so we may be able to propose some pretty major traffic improvements that will also make it safer for pedestrians at the same time. We're trying to incorporate that all into this design, you know, get the most bang for our buck, but it has to be under the umbrella of pedestrian safety improvements. But we can propose traffic improvements that also help pedestrians.
But the 685 is just engineering and design.
This is engineering and design. Because it's probably going to be a $25 million project. When it's all said, I mean, if you're pulling down a bridge and building a new bridge, it's going to be tens of millions of dollars.
Do we feel that that's a priority? I mean, is a $25 million bridge a priority?
If we can leverage their money, again, we're not paying for any of this. This is all a 100% grant. If we can leverage their money to come up with a great design that will eliminate not only pedestrian barriers, but traffic barriers in an area where we know we have problems, and we can make a great pitch to the state and show need, we can probably leverage a lot of money from the state to make this happen. We're not going to pay for it ourselves. We can't. There's just no way to afford that. Even with our transportation benefit district funds and all those things, we don't have that kind of cash. But there is a demonstrated ability for the state to participate in these kind of projects and fund a lot of money if we can demonstrate a need and show a great design towards them. So that's what we're trying to do. We haven't done it before. This is our first big foray into trying to leverage this pedestrian focus and these pedestrian dollars to make an improvement in our busiest area of town. Frankly, we all know that that's the busiest area of town. And we definitely have a pedestrian barrier created by the highway system.
I've spoken with DOT quite frequently and know some of our reps in the area, and they said exactly what he's saying. Those pedestrian friendly projects, they're putting extra money towards. So under that umbrella, we can get that particular area cleaned up. Any other questions or comments? This item is up for a motion.
I move that we accept, what is that? Where is that? SR 17 in Stratford Road Pedestrian Safety Grant.
Thank you. Need a second? I will second that item. Any other discussion on this? There's no other discussion. I call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 3, the 2024 fee schedule resolution 3966, presented by Madeline Prentice, our finance director.
Good evening. So in the packet is the fee schedule that has been presented previously in the budget workshops as well as the first public hearing. There have been some slight modifications to the fee schedule from the first public hearing. And those items are identified in the staff report that is included in the budget, or in the packet, but I will go through just briefly. So at the last meeting, you approved the fire impact fees. Those were not on the fee schedule. They are now incorporated into the fee schedule. Another thing that we would like to implement is a citywide administrative fee to pass on transaction fees that were being charged by online payment providers. So for example, for utility services, if you pay with a debit or a credit card, there is a 2.5% fee that the company charges us. We would like to pass that fee on to the customer using that card. If they pay with a checking account, there is no fee for that. And so it's just for the card, the convenience of using the card. We do have a couple of services that also charge a flat fee. It's a $5 fee. We'd like to pass that on to the customer as well. So it's just an effort to recoup those costs that currently the city is eating those costs of those transaction fees. And we're trying to pass those fees on to the customers. They range anywhere for the percentage from a 2 to 2.5 to a maximum of approximately 5% for those fees that would be added to, and it would be passed on to the customer at the time of the transaction. So the city would not have anything to do with it. It would be the card service would be, basically taking that fee at the time of the transaction. The other fee that we added, the other thing that we wanted to make you aware of is that for the new business licensing tiered structure that we're proposing, and that's been in the fee schedule, we have to go to the DOR because the DOR collects those license fees for us, and then they pass that money on to us. It takes approximately 75 days for them to make the change on their website. So we just wanted you to be aware that it's after this is passed that we then notify them. It takes approximately 75 days. So the new business licensing tiered fees will not go into effect until after the DOR has made those changes. And then the other fees that we're asking for addition is the meter tampering fee. So we're finding more and more that customers, when they have their water disconnected due to non-payment of their water bill, they will go cut the lock. And we've had this happen repeatedly. Some instances, it's repeat customers the same time. Every month they get a notice that they're getting shut off. They go cut the lock. They turn their water back on. So we'd like to add a meter tampering fee to act as a deterrent for people to stop tampering with those, with the meters and with the getting water service to their residents. And finally, then the other fee that we're asking to implement is the Parks, Recreation and Cultural Services Department. Sometimes when they invoice for some of the events that they have or for usage of the facility or the park, some of those organizations don't pay right away. And we've got a few of them that continue to delay. So we'd like to add a 1% late fee to those customers to encourage them to pay timely. And then finally, the last thing, which is not included in here, is earlier this evening on the consent agenda, you passed the municipal airport operations building use fees. Those are not incorporated into the fee schedule because I was not aware of that. So we would ask that you pass this to include that fee so that we can amend the fee schedule and get that included on it as well. So that's it.
Councilmember Schwartz.
Yeah, what's the materiality of the finance or the fees that were charged for the transactions?
I don't have an exact figure for you, but it's like people are using debits and credit cards on a regular basis now, and we're getting charged that. So it potentially could be a fairly large number.
$30,000 or?
I'm thinking 30, 40,000.
I can tell you, we're looking at our Parks and Rec software that has multiple different charges on it, multiple different rates depending upon whether you're online, in person with a card. And I believe we had a total charging of credit card fees of over $45,000 this year to date.
That's just
and that's just in our fees. Yeah. So we're looking at a different subscription model where we get a lower rate, but that is what we are dealing with. We're hoping to get that dropped down and then pass, a certain portion of those on to the actual consumer at the front end transaction.
Okay.
The only thing that I'd like to add to that is there may be a shift to more cash handling. So then there's a little more staff time involved in reconciliation and
Mhm.
and maybe errors involved, so we won't save all that money, but I'm sure we will save some. It's just unfortunate that these credit card companies are raising their rates quite significantly. I've seen it in my own business, so. Councilmember Fancher.
Yeah, I think it's, but I mean, I'm dealing with it all the time in what I do and almost, I think I'm paying it. Everything I pay, because I've always paid in our business with a credit card, everybody's charging me that process fee to use that credit card. It's not, heck, even the country club charges it to you now. And the mileage isn't worth it anymore. They're charging me for the mileage. But the other question I had, it was just an observation, not a concern. In the past, we haven't been charging fees to use like for soccer fields for the games and stuff. It looked like that was a new fee.
We typically don't charge like a rental fee. What we have is a team fee or a tournament fee. So
But like when they're out booking time for practices and stuff, we're not,
technically, we don't charge it for use of the field. We charge a
Right.
player fee for leagues or a tournament fee.
and
So we-
like the adult soccer leagues and stuff like that, are they
Correct. They
Yeah.
they pay us a player fee or a team fee.
Okay.
Or a tournament fee.
for maintenance and stuff?
Correct.
Councilmember Scog.
I would be very much in favor of charging a fee for using a card. So we don't buy frequent flyer miles. The other one is maybe there is a minimum number that if you're gonna have to deposit a check and write it up, and something that was brought up earlier. If there's a $2 charge, you couldn't process a check for $2. So there might be a minimum charge that you could do that.
And we did draft it so that it's kind of up to the discretion of the department that is passing that charge on.
Okay.
So as you said, if it's a small dollar amount,
Yeah.
they have that discretion to not charge that fee. If it's a relatively insignificant number. Yeah, or a donation. Because that's the other thing. If someone is donating money and they use a credit card, we don't really want to pass that fee on to that person making the donation. So we have left it kind of up to the discretion of the department.
Some donations will ask you if you want to.
Any other discussion or questions? Accept a motion at this time.
I so move to approve the fee schedule resolution as presented,
Including the,
Including the,
including,
airport.
Yeah.
Airport.
including the airport.
Okay, thank you. Need a second?
second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the administrative reports.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe I only have one and it's parks, but they've got two.
I just wanted to bring you some fun tonight. So I've got two items for you. The first one is a really fun one. In front of you on the dais, you have the third annual members exhibition card. This is the opening reception for the new exhibit in the museum and the art center is opening this Friday, 4 to 7 p.m. The opening reception will be here. We do have music coming from Moses Lake's High Jazz, which is from the high school there. It should be great. There's an adult craft from 4 to 6:30, redactive poetry, and it'll be catered by Enzo with some snacks and stuff. It's an all free event. You're not required to be a member, but this is our members exhibition. So those members that do art have submitted their projects for display, and we have got those up in the gallery. Do come out on Friday and check that out. The other item I wanted to bring was another bit of news. I talked to you all about the local parks maintenance grant application that we had put in. I gave you a little bit of information. I'll give you a little bit of background here. To that grant, there was a total of 214 applications requesting over $18 million in grant funds. We ranked 19th out of the 214 applications. And we're awarded our $100,000 for the pool project. So we will be pursuing that next year. This is a non-match grant, so we get $100,000 from the state to do some projects at the pool. It's great news. We were at 28.7 points. We were about 2 points out of being first place. But the scary thing is we were also about 2.4 points out of not getting any money at all. So it was that tight of a competition. $18 million in requests and only $4,794,000 were awarded. So I think it's really good for us, and it's great for the pool to have that coming in this year, and we'll get some stuff fixed up next year, and it'll be running even smoother going forward. So.
Council committee reports, we'll start with, I'm gonna switch it up and we'll go with Mr. Eck. Councilmember Skog.
Well, we did talk a lot about the budgets and the programs and the charges. And we've kind of dealt with that tonight. I think we do have hard decisions to make. There's some big expenditures coming up, and part of talking about a $25 million bridge and a $50 million water plant, and there's just going to be some big dollars coming up, big requests. So I think when priorities and what is important, we're going to have to choose, financially what's important to us and to the community.
Councilmember Fancher.
Nothing.
Councilmember Madewell.
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Councilmember Schwartz.
I also have nothing.
Deputy Mayor Martinez.
I don't really remember the Public Safety Committee meeting, other than now that Chief Sands has joined us on that committee, it's a little more entertaining. Yeah.
The previous chief was all busy.
Only a little bit more entertaining?
I believe what you're looking for is thank you for bringing life out of the death that was the police department's contribution before, and you are certainly welcome.
I want to add, I've never laughed so much in a committee meeting as I did this last one. Thank you.
Yeah. And then let's see. Grant County Board of Health. The Board of Health and Grant County Health District is very appreciative of our continued ILA with them. Some cities are not helping with funding to the Grant County Health District, so they appreciate Moses Lake being a partner. Just to maybe help you to understand, if you don't know already, that funding that we give them, the $3 per person, that's kind of their flexible dollars. So if something isn't already covered from from state funding or federal funding, if they get any, they're able to utilize that city money to cover holes. So we're very thankful. And then I just have one more thing, and that's want to thank the Moses Lake Fire Department and the Moses Lake Police Department for participating in the Mora Vida Festival. I appreciate the city stepping up into that community event. Thank you.
I have nothing to add, but just a small little thank you to Kevin Fuhr for stepping up to the position for city manager, and your excellent choice for police chief and Chief Sands.
Yes, he's on probation for a year, so we'll see. And Dustin, I don't know if you want to AGCCT. I don't remember the date on that. If we needed to talk, if you needed it. Okay. So we'll have a meeting between now and then. Okay.
Well, before we go, I just do want to reiterate, sorry, I was a little brief before during our discussion about the gang violence, but I just do want to reiterate, I have some major concerns about that. And I think it's hard to find the words, honestly. I mean, I live right down the street from where that happened. Not that that necessarily matters, but it does affect me personally. So I hope, I think the public deserves to know that we're doing what we can. I understand there's a lot we can't do, but especially because it involves youth. I have kids in the public school system here, and in light of what's going on, I have a hard time seeing them leave every morning, honestly. So, I think this is something we should take seriously and definitely notify the public as to what we're doing about it. So, thank you.
one more thing to add. The pancake breakfast at the fire station, the fire science, I don't know what you call them, fire science students were the ones that made the food and did all of that. And I had a chance to talk to a few of the students, and of the 4 kids that I talked to, none of them were even considering college because they didn't want to waste their money because they didn't know what they wanted to do. But the fire science program gives them an opportunity to explore and consider that avenue for employment and at a decent living wage. So I appreciate the relationship that you have with CV Tech. Thanks.
If there's nothing further, our next regular council meeting is November 28th. We do have an early start that will be at 5:30 for the tax increment finance proposal study session. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah.